Yo guys, what is going on? It's Fen here again. So today I want to talk about protection paladins because the way protection paladins are at the minute is really weird. But I believe the reason they're doing this with a protection paladin is for experimental reasons. Now you might think, well, what's that? Well, in my opinion, I think it's because if you look at Guardian Druids and Brewmasters, they use DPS gear to tank with, and the plate users do not. So I think they might be experimenting with how a plate user would tank with DPS gear, so they can actually just take out tanking gear altogether. It might be, I don't know, it's obviously speculation on my part, but I mean there would be no other reasonable reason to do this to the protection paladins other than it being an experiment. So if you don't know, what am I talking about? Well, the way protection paladins work now is we don't need parry or dodge gear. So if we look at my gear here, this is the old school Cataclysm gear. So I've got dodge parry, mastery parry, mastery dodge, parry expertise dodge. So you can see that there's no real other stats on here except parry, dodge and mastery, and that's the way it was back in the day. Mastery was a fantastic stat, and of course the dodge and parry you need for mitigation. However, that's changed now, and the way tanks are at the minute, this isn't just for the protection panel, this little stage here is for all tanks. You need hit and expertise capped. Now why do you need hit and expertise capped? Well, I'll give you an example. Okay, consecration, miss, 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 miss. So yeah, if you are hit or expertise capped, you're gonna miss, which means you're not gonna generate threat. You're not gonna generate the resources to basically use your mitigation. In terms of protection paladin, it's holy power. We use holy power to use our mitigation. Much like brewmasters, they use chi for their mitigation. Warriors use rage for their mitigation. So all the tanks need to generate a resource for their mitigation. If they don't generate the resource, they can't use the mitigation, which means they're pretty much a wet fish and they're going to die quite fast. So the way we have to tank now as any tank is to get hit and expertise capped. Now what is the hit and expertise capped? Very simply put, hit is 7.5% and expertise is 15%. So you're going to have to gem and reforge for this, there's no doubt about it. Hit is pretty easy to get. Expertise is a little bit difficult, of course, because it's a higher number. So in terms of gems, you would go strength, and if you need to, expertise. You could go strength and haste and strength and mastery. We're going to talk about them stats soon, but they're the ones you want to go for. You don't want to go for parry, you don't want to go for dodge, you don't want to go for pure parry or pure dodge. You want strength and another stat. So strength and haste, strength and mastery, strength and hit, strength and expertise. You don't want strength and parry, you don't want strength and dodge, you don't want dodge, or you don't want parry. It's very important that you understand that. If you're on a warrior, then it's slightly different, but we're talking about paladins here. So if you play a paladin and you're basically gearing up with dodge and parry, then you're doing it very wrong. I'm going to explain why. So the first way you can gear up is with the Marsh Rebuild. Now this requires you to have hit and expertise capped. Make sure you remember that. That's the priority. That's your number one priority. Hit and expertise capped 100% of the way. Once you have that, then you will reforge and gem into mastery. So you want enough stamina to survive 2 boss hits. So an example would be if the boss hit you for 100k, you need 200 and something k to survive. So ideally you would want 250k HP, so you could survive 2 boss hits, and it would leave you with a decent amount of HP left, so the healers can just throw some heals on you and you will be back up. However, if you have 201k and the boss hits you twice for 100k each time, that will leave you with 1k HP. So if the boss managed to hit you a 3rd time without any heals, you are guaranteed to die. We want to kind of mitigate that, so we have enough HP on the third hit. If we just get one heal from one person, a big heal, that will basically top us over the point where we won't get one shot again by the boss. So keep that in mind. That's down to your knowledge as being a tank, how much HP you need, how much HP you can get away with, and how good your healers are. So keep that in mind, it's very important. So once you have the stamina, it's hit and expertise. So hit 7.5%, expertise 15%. So keep that in mind. Once you have that and you're basically good to go, you want to focus on mastery. Now if we go into our mastery here, it increases the damage reduction of your Shield of the Righteous by 90%, adds 90% to Bastion of Glory, which is basically your heal, and increases your chance to block melee attacks by 90%. So overall, the mastery is a pretty powerful stat, but it's the safer option. It's a lot easier because you basically focus on Shield of the Righteous to basically do most of the work. It increases your block, it increases the amount, it basically reduces your damage by. So if you read here, it reduces your damage by 49%. So with my 19% onto that, you were looking at 50 something percent, well 60 something percent I think, which is pretty decent. So reducing damage by, let's say, 60% is pretty good. It's like having an armor boost. So reduce physical damage taken by 60%. So another 60%, that's 120% right there, just from my Shield of the Righteous plus having the armor. And not only do we have that, we have block as well, which blocks 30% of incoming damage. And we also have our parry and expertise, parry and dodge, which aren't phenomenal stats, but they can help with mitigation. So that's pretty cool. So that's one of the ways you can go. You can go mastery and reducing the damage you take overall, which is pretty decent. It's a safe and decent way of tanking. The other option is to go haste instead of mastery. So you get your stamina to survive 2 boss hits, you get your hit and expertise capped, and then you would go haste instead of mastery. So once you've done that, the reason you would go haste is because of this ability here, Sanctity of Battle. So you've got 2 options here, 2 very distinct options, 2 different styles of gameplay. And you can go for mastery, which reduces overall damage, or you can go haste, which allows you to keep the damage reduction up more often. So melee haste effects lower the cooldown and global cooldown of your Judgment, Crusader Strike, Hammer of the Righteous, Consecration, Holy Wrath, Avenger's Shield, and Hammer of the Wrath. So if you can use these abilities more often, you're going to be doing more threat, more damage, and generating the resource you need to use your mitigation. So holy power in this case. So the haste is a lot harder because you're going to have to manage your holy power a lot more, because you're going to be generating it a lot faster than you normally would if you went the haste mastery way. So keep that in mind. The haste way is a lot better, but it's a lot harder to basically conquer. Whereas the mastery way, it's basically what it is now. It's just default, you're using your abilities, and then you would use your abilities to reduce your damage. However, the haste is more superior, simply because if you can use or generate the resource more often, you can use your abilities more often, which in turn increases your DPS, increases your survivability, and of course increases your threat. So overall, it's really, really good. And the way tanks with Vengeance, we can do a lot of damage, it can help out in them tight situations in boss fights where that just extra little bit of DPS would have killed the boss. And if you went haste, you would have pulled out that little bit of extra DPS and therefore would have done, or at least killed the boss. You see it all the time, actually. So what I'm going to talk about next is gear, because if you go into a dungeon, some gear drops, and it's dodge parry, leave it alone. Say you can have it for off spec. A warrior's there. Hey mate, you can have this for off spec, but I'm going to be needing on this gear. And a lot of DPS are going to get really pissy about that. But I think it's a good thing. Why? Because when I'm tanking and DPS come in and they need on tanking gear, it is so frustrating. I can't believe it. It really annoys me, but it's kind of payback now for at least prop paladins. The Guardian Druid and, of course, Brewmaster have to put up with that anyways. So that being said, let's have a look at gear because the gear is important. So I've got 4 belts here. I'm going to show you the belts, but I'm going to basically go through the stats here. So the first belt has 668 strength, so strength equals parry. If you didn't know, 951.16% equals 1% parry. So 951.60% of strength equals 1% of parry. So keep that in mind when we're reading these stats out. So the more strength the item has, the better the parry conversion will be. So the first belt has 668 strength, it's got 452 haste and 434 crit. Okay. The second belt has 508 strength, 668 dodge, and it's got 358 expertise. So okay. So the third belt has 668 strength, 338 dodge, and 508 parry. So that's a traditional tanking belt. Low strength, lowish dodge, high parry. That's generally what we go for in Cataclysm. However, we're not in Cataclysm anymore. We're in Mist of Pandaria. So the fourth belt is 668 strength, 445 mastery, and 445 crit. Now, which one of them would be ideal for you? Well, if you're going the mastery, of course, the belt with the mastery on. If you're going haste, the belt with the haste on. So it's very easy to determine what gear you need. So I'm going to press Shift J and go into this item here, this log with all the bosses. And let's look at the belt. So the waist here, this is the haste one. This is the one you will need. Why? Because it's got haste on. You would reforge the crit into hit or expertise. If you are expertise capped, then reforge the crit into mastery. So if you're going for the haste route, the stat after that, once you are capped on hit and expertise, would be mastery. However, if you are going the mastery route, you would use haste for the secondary stat. If you're hit and expertise capped, you would go for the mastery belt, and then you would basically reforge into haste after that, because it is still quite useful, of course. So that's the belt you would go for if you're going the haste route. However, if you're going for the mastery route, then this belt here would be very good for you. So it's got mastery and it's got crit. So if you are not hit or expertise capped, reforge the crit into hit or expertise. If you are hit or expertise capped, reforge the crit into haste, and then that way you're going to basically benefit from both of the stats. I most likely though you will have to reforge for hit and expertise, so you probably won't run into the problem where you have issues where you need to reforge into haste. So keep that in mind. And then there's other belts here as well. Let's see if we can find them. I believe it might be in the Scarlet Halls. So that's wrists. It's not in there. Here we go. Waist. So this one is the dodge and expertise one. So this could be good, but it's got 668 dodge, which is very, very bad for us. Dodge is one of the worst stats for tanks, so you just don't need it. It's got very low strength as well, so that's not ideal. It's got expertise on, which is what we need, but having that expertise won't benefit us from having the 668 dodge. It's a useless stat, so just don't use it. Even if you reforged the dodge into mastery, for instance, or haste, you're still not going to get as much as you would from the pure mastery or pure haste belt, so keep that in mind. And then there's another one down here as well. I think it's in this one. Yeah, so this one is the dodge and parry one. This is the traditional tanking belt. This is what we used to use. Not anymore, because parry is far superior than dodge, so we want to keep the parry. However, the dodge is a very low stat, so reforging that into hit or expertise is going to be pointless, and therefore even if you reforge into mastery or haste, it's still going to be pointless because you're not going to get enough of it to benefit from it really. So you want to go for the highest stat. So in our case, it's basically this belt here for haste, or this one here for mastery. So keep that in mind, guys. You can do this for all of the items you want. So same with shoulders. So this one is mastery and crit. This would work really well with your mastery set if you're going mastery. You just reforge the crit into hit or expertise, or into haste, depending if you're hit or expertise capped. It's got a gem slot, so you can put in, you don't have to gem it for, like, let's say a pure strength gem just to get the 60 crit, because you don't need crit's useless. However, you could put a gem in here such as strength and hit, or strength and expertise, or strength and mastery, and that way even if you don't get the socket bonus is pretty useless for us anyways, so we're not losing out on anything and we're gaining a lot of stuff from this. So the strength is pretty high, the mastery is pretty high, the crit is okay, you can reforge that, and of course it's got a gem slot as well, so that's going to basically boost us up even more. So that's pretty much what you want to look for when you are basically playing the Protection Paladin. It's a different way of playing. However, if you do decide to go for the old school build, such as prioritizing parry and dodge, you're going to miss a lot on your attacks, which means you're not going to be a viable tank. Because if these are all mobs and I'm single target tanking and I have 0 hit chance and very low expertise, I'm going to run in, I'm going to use this, it's going to miss them, I'm going to pop down Consecration, it's just going to miss. So when the DPS do open up, they're just going to pull threat and I won't be able to keep aggro on them. And it's pointless to have a tank who isn't expertise or hit capped, because you will not keep aggro on the boss. With the amount of damage we can do in this expansion, you really need to be hitting them abilities. So if you've got any questions, make sure you leave them in the comment section below. I hope this video helped you out, and hopefully if you've got any questions, sensible questions, then I'll reply to them as soon as possible, because I know how frustrating it is to leave a comment and something important, and the person who you're trying to get information off just doesn't reply. So if you've got a question, leave it in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next time. So cheers for watching, guys. Take care.